The bottom line is people want to know what's driving attendance and who these people are. And back then when I was first starting that whole charade, a lot of people weren't understanding through analytics who these people were. And so I was kind of, I don't want to say a trailblazer, I was kind of crazy. As long as I was making people money or saving them money, it didn't matter if I had 1, 2, or 3 legs. It was like, you know, the woman knows what she's talking about and the numbers are resonating.
Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Naist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Naist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. It's Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. And again, I'm starting off 2025 with an amazing guest. So what I'd like to do, Kathleen, is have you introduce yourself to my audience, like who you are, what it is you do, and then we are going to rock and roll.
Fantastic. What a pleasure. What an honor. You came highly recommended. My colleagues say exceptional things about how you are just grounded and real and let us tell the story and share it with people. And the learning curve is amazing. So what a pleasure to be here. I'm currently the CEO of SMRI, which is a data analytics firm. I started, believe it or not, I'm dating myself, 29 years ago. And that was back when I had to start claiming wages because I got an opportunity to work with the Dolphins and Wayne Heisiga, who was the owner back then. And Wayne was an amazing gentleman. And every morning I have like a gratitude prayer. And I was like, he was so instrumental in my success. And he introduced me to the NFL and said, you know, here's a woman that could probably do your analytics. And they wanted to find out the added value to hosting Super Bowl, not so much media, though there's quite the broadcast media is amazing for the NFL. It's gotten so powerful since the last 2 or 3 years with Taylor Swift and up 7% viewership like each year. I mean, it's just crazy. But they introduced me to Wayne Heisiga, and Wayne was one of the 32 that sat at the table with all the other owners, and they were looking for somebody to understand the economic impact of staging a Super Bowl, and what's really unique about Super Bowl, and they're going to have that down in New Orleans, in 2 months, and they're going to bring me down and my team to work one of the larger events, and we do some reporting for them with the Taste of the NFL, and that's Roger Goodell's event. So we've done that since 1995 as well, on and off. COVID kind of put a little squelch in hosting that back in Tampa, but I have stayed with that. They gave me an opportunity to start SMRI. Because I had to do something with the money, and back then I was a tenured professor down in Miami, and Wayne wanted to pay me, and I said, well, you know, you can cover the cost, but what would really be great is if you gave. I didn't know what I was doing back then. You give a portion back to the university, and believe it or not, 4 or 5 months later, he gifted them $50,000, which was. I was like,
Wow.
That was amazing gift. So he was a first in class gentleman. He passed a couple of years ago, and told a lot of people about what I was doing, and managed to continue to do work with them, and met some of their VPs of executive vice presidents of special events. And first one I met was Jim Steig, and he and I worked together on a couple of projects later on, and what a great gentleman. And so I did economic impact and analytics with them, started SMRI, and I was because you got NFL on your resume,
Yeah.
it kind of resonates with the rest of events and management. And I started to do a lot of large scale events. I did work with the Orange Bowl and Breeders' Cup and Olympics, and I traveled all over the world with the ATP men's tour and the women's tour in tennis. And Red Bull hired me, saw what I was doing. I've been all over the world with the Red Bull Air Race doing analytics, and what an amazing adventure this has been. I usually tap the data on site. Primary data is the golden standard. So if you know how to do it and you've got an instrument that is well designed and articulated, and have a nice little incentive for people to finish out, and you know when to do it, you get some really great data. Not the 1% to 2% that you typically get when you're doing online, but when you're on site and you're engaging with them, and you have opportunities for them to scan a QR code, which is what we've done the past, I don't know, probably 5-7 years. They don't mind doing it. And I was able to get a really high response rate when I started to beta test a platform. I saw SurveyMonkey and I was like, these guys can't take this. This is like taking a test. They're not going to like taking a test. They don't want to be talked to. They want to feel like they're engaged in the conversation. And so I met this gentleman, Jason McCloskey, who is now working with cloud computing, Amazon cloud computing, does a lot of their development. I said, Jason, we can't do this. I can't use SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics business. People are turned off by that. We need to be more engaging. We need to make it fun. We need to give them something for it. So we developed a platform called SurveyEdge, and I was able to get that going. Then COVID hit, and we were all kind of taken back. And the development, we kind of went underground on that one. We had a lot more time and energy to devote to the development, but we couldn't test in the market because there were a lot of things that were going on. People weren't going out. They didn't want to be engaged. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
So
to say the least, right?
It was, hunker down 101. And I still feel like I must wash my hands way too much.
Right.
From that whole experience. But so we've developed SurveyEdge. We've launched that, and that's Survey-Edge. And what's really cool about that is I think it's much more engaging, much more fun. You have a game at the end, and I'm not encouraging people to go on, and there's a free trial. You can see what it's like, but I think it's a great opportunity to reach people and add value as opposed to 1% to 2% response rates, which is just doesn't cover the market. We have had on the average 23% response rates, and that's pretty amazing. 1 in 4, 1 in 5. And I encourage people to try it and see what we have and see if they'd like to use it, because it's just it's been a fun journey. And I teach part-time at Rady School of Management down here in San Diego and UCSD. And
we're neighbors. I like it.
Yes.
I like it. It.
So I got to get you you have to come to that class. You have to zoom in.
Oh, you tell me when.
The students would love it. It's about really understanding who your audience is and reaching people with great messages, and data analytics and podcasting is like, hand in hand. And it'd be fun to develop a SurveyEdge platform for people that are listening, that you can put up a QR code, and once you get your your audio visual going, or you send them a link to that's associated with the podcast link, and people could give you feedback on what they thought of your guest and what they thought. I think that's a good way to rate them. I need the feedback because I'm not perfect.
We will talk about that for sure, Kathleen. But let's go back a little bit. Tell the audience what SMRI stands for, and exactly, because I'm probably going to have some people in the audience going, okay, what analytics for what? Like they're going to want to understand what you're talking about a little bit. If you can go back, and then I want to kind of dive deeper into your story, like what we talked
Gotcha.
about before we got the podcast going, and
Gotcha.
how you show people how you've had your, fair share of challenges. I don't like to call them struggles, but challenges, and how you bounce back and to where you are today. And like you said, you deal with people at the top levels, besides the players in the NFL and stuff like that. So they're probably going, well, what does she mean by these analytics? Like, what is she talking about?
Great question. And thanks for backing me up, because I get going and then, it's just like I'm lecturing at
At school,
I'm
right?
like going off on a tangent. I got to reel it back. Come on, Ken. Anyway, so SMRI was the acronym for Sport Management Research. And this is, God, if I could change the name, trust me. It was something that happened 29 years ago. And I think that back then there was a lot of sport management resonated with a lot of the titles of the programs academically. And I was in an academic institution and developing this. And so I kept it kind of true to that, because I thought that that was the home base. And it's still very academic, and I'm still using it, and I'm still teaching. So it hasn't lost its relevancy. In fact, being associated with an academic institution like UCSD keeps us, up there, and hey, well, they must have some kind of credibility because
Right.
they're using it there. But I am Sport Management Research Institutes was started as a result of that first economic impact study back in 1995 with Wayne Heisinger. And we did economic impact for the Miami Super Bowl. I think I want to say that was the California Bowl. That was the last time San Diego, the one and only time San Diego was in the Super Bowl. And God bless them, they're doing pretty well, and they're up in LA. And we don't really think too great about that, but it is what it is. And,
Right. Right.
I'm being very diplomatic, but that was the California Bowl, and then I just kind of kept working with the NFL. They wanted me to do some work in Tampa, or not Tampa, but Tempe the following year, and so I've stayed with that. And economic impact and what really drives analytics is, particularly in special events like that, is just understanding who these people are that are coming, and how much they're making, and what their education. They all have very high SES levels, social economic status, because who else can afford a ticket to the Super Bowl that's, on average 8,000 just before game time, right? And then it comes down a little bit, but the downward pressure with New Orleans is going to be intense, because the market is so small down there. So there's 1/3 of the hotels. So you're going to have there's going to be a lot of downward pressure. People are going to fight for those tickets. They're going to fight for accommodation, lodging, and all of that down there as well. And so we studied that information, and what the NFL did with it was they were able to then document how much people were spending and where they were spending, what businesses were impacted. And what was really interesting is that there was no crowding out effect, because if you knew that the people that were coming in a prime time when you normally would attract tourists were making 4 to 5 times as much money and spending that much more on hotel rooms and merchandise and rental cars and Uber and everything else that they spend it on retail, right? You'd much rather have a Super Bowl attendee, because they're spending a lot more money.
I get it. So what you're saying is what you do with your analytics is show how much a city will make when that Super Bowl is in town, right? And how it affects the city as a whole economically, and how much money because we all know, right? Like the Super Bowl is one of the most watched, if not the most watched sporting events at any given time. Like, I mean, all over the world. So imagine like you say, I can see because I'm a football fan, right? And it's funny that you have that with the San Diego. I always still call them the San Diego Chargers, right? But that's like my ex Los Angeles Rams. Even though they're back, when they left, I was so mad
Oh, I know. I
at what
know.
Georgia, whatever her name is. I was so angry. I'm
Took
like,
it to St. Louis, and oh my
yeah,
God, they just,
yeah. So I have never been a fan since I went to San Francisco. I figured they've never left, so I'm going to go to San Francisco. I'm going to be a San Francisco 49er. But my family will tell you, oh man, Max was so angry when they left California because I lived in Orange County, right? I could go watch a football game at the Anaheim Stadium. And then when they took that away, I was like, because that's like my favorite sport. So,
it's
you
funny
know,
you should mention that. My very first football game was at the LA Coliseum, and it was the LA Rams. And I remember seeing Tom Mack on the field, and I think I was in high school, and he ended up coming to my high school to talk about challenges and overcoming, kind of what we're doing, but being a great role model to a lot of us. And I was like, when I saw that game down there, I was like, I want to work with them.
I love it.
And I'm like, how many people do that? Not usually, but I'm a bit different. I grew up with three brothers, and I and God bless them, they're all very supportive of what I do. But I think I'm the one that's the real sport nut of the four of us.
I
So
love it.
I don't know how that happened. It just was the way it kind of germinated, and here I am. And so yeah, I did economic impact, primary data when you collect it, and you understand some of the basic demographic information, and then what's driving their decision to attend, and what they liked about it, and would they come back. That starts to sell the whole package as a great destination. And the host convention and visitor bureaus really love that information. They love to tout that, hey, 90% of the people would come back, right? And we had, out of the people that attended that Super Bowl, we had about 87% were from outside the region. So that's a huge economic impact, right?
Right.
So it's not like hosting, though NFL's gotten a little better because you have Swiftie fans that will travel anywhere. And I do mean it. They love her. She's got great charisma. She's got great energy. She's got great presence. And just having her at a game, the out of town visitors goes boom. And it'd be interesting to see what's going on in Kansas City with the economic impact from her, attending.
Oh, yeah,
So,
and because no matter way you look at it, whether you like her or not, the it's going to go up, okay? Because there's going to be people that want to, people that like her want to see her and watch the game or go to the games and vice versa, right? And, that's just how human nature is. Like we're either going to love to hate her or we're going to love her, and but we're all going to show up so we can see what she looks like, off the stage and in a booth.
yeah, the timing couldn't have been better. Think about it, because we just come out of COVID and we're trying to get back into relationships. And all of a sudden we see Kelsey, have this great connection with this woman. I'm like, well, that's what the world needs.
Right.
We need to show it's okay to be, to have relationships and love one another. And that's the cool thing about what's happened. Along with, just it's a great story. It just is a great story. And his brother Jason's got great energy. He's got great moxie, and his commercials and they have podcasts, and I think people listen to that, and they've done a great job with that. So yeah, I'm here. I am going down to New Orleans, and God bless those people. I know they experienced some trauma, yesterday, and
Oh my God, I heard about that, and I just went
horrible
what's like
insanity.
my mom passed away 8 years ago, but it brought me back to her because she would have said, like, what's wrong with these people? Like, why do they have to do that? My mom is such a giver. Like, she didn't understand that stuff. Like, but she grew up in a time, where the Japanese took over Indonesia for a while during World War II. And her father, my grandfather, was a prisoner of war. So like, even though she has gone through stuff like that, she doesn't understand, because my mom is such a giver. She was an angel on earth, and she's an angel up in heaven for me, but she'd always ask me
You're a
like,
good
why do,
mama.
yeah, I had a great mama, and she was always like question, like, why do people have to do that thing? And then, I went through my addiction, and she gave me that look, like, why do you have to do that stuff? Come on, like, pull yourself together, son.
Yeah.
But all that stuff like we're talking about now has led us to like you being here on the show, which is definitely a big honor for me. Like we were talking before the show, everybody, and like she's making my head, I don't know if I would be able to get out of the room because she's telling me how good I am and great. I'm like,
Oh my
no,
God,
this.
your reputation.
Yeah.
I do research, so I look at online and I'm like, this guy is on fire. And I was thinking, Noah, you so set me up. He's a giant. He's got great, and I listened to some of your shows, which you have posted, and I just thought, wow, this is gonna be fun. I can't wait. So, and you've really make it real. And
Well,
rather than just being redundant, which I was, it does, but you bring it down to the grassroots, and it's something that everyone can embrace. And
and that's my goal, right? Because of what's gone on in the world the last, let's say, 4 to 8 years, right? With all, I'm not a big politician, I don't like to follow that stuff, but I mean, they try to make this world an ugly place. So my whole goal is to have guests like yourself so they can share their story and go and just show everybody, look, we're people just trying to get along and have a, live our best lives ever. And if I can help someone do that and they can help me, and vice versa, like we can help a bunch of people, I say, why not? Right. So it is definitely an honor for me to have you here on the show. But let's go back a little bit and talk about some of those challenges that, right? Because one I can think of on the top of my head, right? When you're going to work with the NFL, right? Like you're probably in a male dominated, you know what I mean? And then here comes Kathleen, right? And Kathleen is probably going to go like, I'll show you what time it is, boys. Right. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, but let's talk about some of those challenges that has gotten you through life to where you are today and has made you successful, right? Because you and I talked about, right? Like we're going to fail, right? It's how we handle it, right? Do we get back up, like Rocky says, and just keep brushing ourselves off and keep moving forward? Or do we cower and go, I give up, I'm never doing anything worthwhile? Because if I did that, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today, right? So I always like to see where my guests have come from, if you don't mind.
No, I'm thrilled. I think I shared earlier that I grew up in Southern Cal, and I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I went to Cal Poly Pomona and had some great mentors there, and USC for my graduate work, and back then it was kind of a combination degree, but today it's more like data scientist work, and I was able to get my master's and PhD, and they were kind enough to help me with some of the funding, so I didn't have to pay tuition because that was a lot of money. And I thought that first job out of USC, I was down at Tulane, and all of a sudden I was working with the Saints in the Superdome. And guess where I'm going back in a month, right? Basically 6 weeks back to where I started with teaching at Tulane. And I kind of got connected back then to what was going on with I got my students, I got them internships, and I worked with them on analytics. And the bottom line is people want to know what's driving attendance and who these people are. And back then, when I was first starting that whole charade and great journey, a lot of people weren't understanding through analytics who these people were. And so I was kind of, I don't want to say a trailblazer, I was kind of crazy.
I love it.
Which is why I call the platform that I'm using now SurveyEdge, because people always said, well, she's a little edgy. As long as I was making people money or saving them money, it didn't matter if I had 1, 2, or 3 legs. It was like, the woman knows what she's talking about, and the numbers are resonating, and there's a lot of validity to what she's coming up with because she knows how to understand data collection and analytics and report generation. So once you get the information, how you put it on a spreadsheet, and then I must have looked at oh my God, well over 2,000, 3,000 spreadsheets in the past, I don't know how many years, you start to see the patterns. And I feel like I'm Rain Woman.
Right. I love it.
And I can kind of see the patterns in the data. I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of how I think it should look. What will be interesting is the the drive to New Orleans versus Las Vegas, where they had 3 times, 2 times the amount of hotel space. So there's a lot different kind of downward pressure on the market. And I'm just thinking the prices and who's going to be attending. It's going to be a really high-end consumer. It's going to be a really high-end economic impact. All of that thing is kind of starting to flow. And then you've got, oh my God, look who's going to be there. And you've got, it's always determined by the teams. And if you've got, when I first did it back and the Chiefs hadn't been there in 50 years, and I did the work in Miami in 2020, it was easily 2-to-1 Chiefs fans. And they came and they spent back in down in Miami because they hadn't been in 50 years. And they were like, well, we're never going to be able to go again. Well, guess what? They're kind of on a roll and they're showing it again. So that, that might very well be. We'll see what's going on with that. And you've got Minneapolis and Minnesota versus Detroit that, seem to be making some headwind on that end. The playoffs are always fun.
I love that.
Like whoever shows up gets it. And,
Right.
it's, that's what makes it, that's the beautiful thing about sports. Is that it's the uncertainty of outcomes. You just don't know. And so it plays into that whole gaming trend we're seeing. It plays into the fact that we are very competitive as consumers in this country. And so we love competition, and football is just kind of, it's taken over as American sport. And I know baseball is just, incredibly positioned to always have a spot in our hearts. But the shorter season and the bandwidth, even though they added another, now it's 18 home games, right? Or not
Right.
18 home games, it's 8 to 9 home games. It's
Right.
18 games. It's still, if by comparison, a much shorter kind of, everyone goes into depression. After February hits, like, well, now what are we going to do?
Right. I know I'm like that. It's like, dang, my football's over. Like, what am I going to do now?
Anyway, so here I am, post-COVID. We did, done some fun. We give a lot of information to the host community, and I was, doing some work and doing some top line audits of Breeders' Cup down here when it was just here, and we do work with colleges and universities. I've kind of been able to. I've had the pleasure of being able to be a little more choosy on who I work with, and I'm honored that I'm in that position and feel like I can. I kind of like 3 events, 2 or 3 events a year is enough for me to handle on top of teaching and living a life, right? So I kind of go with that, and just happy to be alive, happy to get up every morning. There you go, like you are,
right?
like
Well, I love. Well, share that story. What happened to you with that accident? Like,
of course, yeah, that was life changing.
to say the least, right? Listen up, everybody.
And I don't want to get into too much, but I was getting something out of the car, and the trunk had a kick function where if you put your foot underneath the bumper, the hood, the trunk comes down. And I didn't hear it, I didn't see it coming, and boom, it hit me in the top of the head. And I was like, wow, that really hurt. And I laid down because my head started throbbing. 3 days later, I woke up and I'm in the hospital room, and my head's shaved, and I have a big, I don't know how many stitches, but I had a internal bleed, hemorrhage, and if they hadn't caught it when they did, I'd been gone. In fact, I think at one point, if I remember, it just really keeps you grounded on so many levels, and just happy to be here. At one point, I remember in my conscious, I could see myself floating above people that were in the room, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do that. I got to get back to that, because I could see them upset in the room, and I'm like, it was one of those almost there. You were almost there, kid. And so, what does it do to you? It's like, well, there must be a reason I'm here. And thank God I'm here. And thank God I'm alive. And it makes you appreciate breathing every morning, waking up again every morning, and having friends and family that love you. And all of that is just underscored in so many ways, and appreciation and gratitude, which I know you understand, just to be here, and to be able to experience looking at the sun and seeing the Milky Way on occasion, and just things that you just take for granted. And so if I can encourage anybody in 25, it's 25 is a divine chance for you to appreciate the great reason for being, why we're all here, right? So
Absolutely. And we all appreciate you, Kathleen, because the football games are great because of you.
Hey, you know what? We got to get you down in New Orleans. You got to broadcast down there. Come on.
Oh,
I'd love
and
to be on the show again. Come on.
I would love to do that. I've never been to New Orleans, and
We would have fun.
we would have a blast.
You're gonna do a live on Radio Row. We'll put you up. We'll set you up.
Oh, I would love that. That would be like a dream come true. But so now I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I love to ask, right? As you can see, I wrote a book, and my podcast is the same name as my book. But I like to ask this question of all my guests, which goes like this: fearless, right? Because I know you've been in many situations where you've had to overcome the fear and just plow forward and get the job done. But what does fearless mean to you, Kathleen? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
That's what entrepreneurs are. That's who they are. I think it epitomizes, you have to just go for it. And you have to just say, if you don't, and it's how I started the conversation, failure is never having tried, and so you failed, you can get up again, and there's so many great shining examples of people before us that have done that, have kept failing, they kept going, and they finally got it, and then it's like, wow, I guess that was worth it. and it's just, you're not going to get it right the first time, and I think that that's why I was really drawn to what your message was, because it's what, 80% of this country are small businesses, and a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and they're all thinking, wow, what's the economy like in 2025? We've got a new political landscape. We've got a lot of things changing there, and stock market seems to be holding its own, and social media is on fire, and how can I maximize, just being here, and enjoying the moment, and being able to impact people in a really positive way, because it's about the greater good and the greater number, and being fearless, and understanding that it's not about you, kind of just sets you up for success, because then it's like, well, you're helping other people, and you get it because you're helping so many people with this message. So if you can do that in your life, and when you get up and your New Year's resolution, I hate that expression, you should be doing this all year long, but
Right.
it's like, just go up and see how you can add value to the community. And forget about what you're, because once you add value, the money always follows. Right?
That's right. That's what I've been taught. That's why I don't give up, and I keep going, because I just, do the work, keep suiting up and showing up, and everything else will fall into place. So I love it. So my next question is happiness. And as you can see, I put a Y in it.
I love it.
What does happiness mean to you, Kathleen? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
It's like, why happiness? And I think it comes with the fulfillment that you feel when you don't have the focus on you. Then you realize that you're there to help other people and add value and the greater good and the greater number. And to me, that's why we're all here. It's giving back and understanding how you can add value. And that is the connection and the love that we have is true happiness.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's true happiness.
I love it.
And that's, and I haven't done surveys on that, but I bet I did. Everybody. 5-star, you're right.
That's right.
It's about the love. It's about the love, right? So
I love it. And we can always put one of those surveys together. Let's find out, you and I, like, what that means. Okay.
There you go.
But, this has been like I thought it would be, from when we talked before the show started, an amazing time. And I thank you so much for being here and sharing your life with us and what you do and stuff like that. So I want to ask you, like, if my audience wants to reach out to you, get a hold of you, ask you questions about what you do for work, or take one of your classes, right?
I would love that. I'd love to hear from them. I love feedback.
How can they get a hold of you, Kathleen?
Okay, well, I guess the best way is email, because it's pretty cost effective. And I have an info at go-s as in Sam, MRI.com. I think I gave him that spiel. But if you want to email me, feel free to. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear what you liked about what we were talking about and how I could get better and help you along your journey as well. Info at go-SMRIs would be fantastic.
I love it. I love it. This has been one fantastic time for sure. I know my audience is like I am, has gotten a lot of value out of it, but you're not quite off the hook just yet. I have my favorite. I have my one favorite question that I love asking all my guests, and it goes like this. What is the one piece of advice, Kathleen, that you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
Well, I think I've kind of hit on it, and I don't want to be redundant, but I think understanding that the focus is outward, it's adding value. It's not about you. It's about the love and respect that you can show others in the community, and that others are all your different networks, your family, your friends, your colleagues, the people that you meet on the street, how you can be real and genuine and caring for others. And I think just putting out that feeling of the messages, once you feel you have that, people just pick up on the energy. They just pick up on the energy.
Yep, so I love it. See, and I watched a little short TED talk with this guy that the title says what we thought about addiction is all wrong, right? And so me being in recovery was like, I got to hear what this guy has to say. What kind of BS is this guy going to come with, right? But I watched it all the way through, and he was so correct but I think it's not just for people who suffer from addiction, right? It's all of us, right? The opposite of addiction or anything we're struggling with is connection. And if we can have those connections with each other, right? Because there's a saying that I've learned in the rooms of AA where I got sober, right? It says, when anyone anywhere cries out for help, let the hand of AA be there. And for that, I'm responsible. But see, I take that to whatever, anybody, you know what I mean? I don't think it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, if anybody needs my help, I know, I believe in God. God was saying like, well, that hand is reaching out for you. You better grab it, because I'm not going to be happy if you don't, you know what I mean? So
100%.
But that's how we connect, right? Is helping each other, whatever background we came from, right? And so that was, I love it. This has been such an amazing time, and I'm so happy that
Thank you for having me. What a lovely person you are, and what a great opportunity. And I'm just honored and thrilled. And please have anybody that listens and I spark some interest, or you want a follow-up question, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Love it. I love it. You heard it, everybody. You heard it. If Kathleen, right? If Kathleen made you smile, if she taught you something, if she made you think, and if she made you go, I like that, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people could find the podcast. And again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
What an honor to fight on, fight on.
You heard that, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you all for joining.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.